Welcome to Heartline Stories. Today's story follows a millionaire who finds hope in the love of a nurse. As their paths cross, hearts change, and lives are touched in unexpected ways. What happens when kindness and compassion turn a life around? Stay with us as we unravel this heartwarming tale, and let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Once upon a time, there was a man named John Anderson. John was a millionaire who owned a big company. Even though he had lots of money, John felt very sad and lonely. He lived in a huge mansion with many rooms, but they were all empty and quiet. One day, John got very sick and had to go to the hospital. At the hospital, he met a kind nurse named Grace. Grace was always smiling and taking care of her patients. She had a special way of making everyone feel better, not just with her medicine, but also with her warm heart. Grace noticed that John was not only sick in his body, but also in his heart. She spent extra time with him, talking and listening to his stories. John felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Grace's kindness and care started to heal, not just his body, but his lonely heart as well. As days went by, John and Grace became good friends. Grace would tell John funny stories about her childhood, and John would share his adventures as a millionaire. They laughed a lot, and John began to look forward to Grace's visits every day. One evening, John asked Grace, "Why do you always have a smile on your face?" Grace replied, "Because I believe that a smile can make the world a better place. When we show kindness, it spreads like ripples in a pond." John thought about Grace's words. He realized that all his money and riches didn't make him truly happy. What mattered most was love and kindness. For the first time in a long while, John felt a warm glow in his heart. John wanted to do something special for Grace to show his gratitude. One day he decided to visit the hospital early in the morning. He carried a bouquet of flowers and a small gift box. As he walked into the hospital, the staff greeted him warmly. When he reached Grace's desk, he handed her the flowers in the box. Grace's eyes widened with surprise and joy. "Oh, John, this is so kind of you," she exclaimed. John smiled and said, "You have been a ray of sunshine in my life, Grace. I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for me." Grace opened the gift box and found a beautiful necklace inside. She was touched by John's gesture and gave him a warm hug. "Thank you, John. This means so much to me," she said softly. From that day on, John started to change. He began to see the world through Grace's eyes, filled with kindness and love. He wanted to make a difference in the lives of others, just like Grace had made a difference in his life. John started a charity to help those in need. He visited hospitals, schools, and orphanages, spreading hope and joy wherever he went. Grace often joined him on these visits, and together they made the world a better place. As John and Grace continued their journey of kindness, they grew closer and their friendship deepened. They learned to appreciate the small moments in life and found happiness in helping others. But their story was far from over. There were still many adventures and challenges ahead. John and Grace continued their journey of kindness, helping people in need and spreading joy wherever they went. One day they visited a small school in a poor neighborhood. The children there had very little, but they were full of smiles and dreams. John saw a little boy named Tom who was sitting alone and looking sad. John sat down next to him and asked, "Hi, Tom. What's on your mind?" Tom looked up with teary eyes and said, "I want to be a doctor when I grow up, but my family can't afford to send me to school." John's heart ached for Tom. He remembered the times when he felt hopeless and lonely, and he didn't want Tom to feel the same. John decided to do something special for Tom and the other children at the school. The next day, John and Grace returned to the school with big boxes filled with books, pencils, and other school supplies. The children's faces lit up with joy when they saw the gifts. John also promised to help Tom and other children get a good education. Grace watched John with admiration. She knew that his heart had changed because of the love and kindness they shared. Together, they were making a real difference in the lives of many people. As the days went by, John and Grace continued their mission of spreading hope and love. They visited hospitals, schools, and orphanages, always bringing smiles and warmth to everyone they met. Their friendship grew stronger, and they found happiness in each other's company. One sunny morning, John and Grace decided to visit a nearby orphanage. They brought along toys, clothes, and books for the children. When they arrived, the children greeted them with wide smiles and laughter. John noticed a little girl named Lily, who was sitting quietly in the corner, watching the other children play. He walked over to her and gently asked, "Hi, Lily. Why are you sitting here alone?" Lily looked up at John with sad eyes and whispered, "I miss my family. They left me here when I was very young, and I don't know where they are." John's heart ached for Lily. He remembered the feeling of loneliness that he once had and wanted to make her feel better. He gently held her hand and said, "You are not alone, Lily. We are all here for you." Grace joined them and gave Lily a warm hug. "Would you like to play with us?" she asked with a kind smile. Lily nodded and joined the other children in their games. As the day went on, John and Grace spent time with each child, playing, reading stories, and sharing laughter. They could see the children's faces light up with joy and felt a deep sense of fulfillment. John realized that his purpose in life was to spread love and kindness, just like Grace had shown him. He made a promise to himself to continue helping those in need and to bring hope to as many hearts as he could. Grace admired John's dedication and felt grateful to have him as a friend. Together, they were making a positive impact on the world and creating beautiful memories along the way. As the days turned into weeks, John and Grace continued their visits to the orphanage. They formed a special bond with the children, especially with little Lily. They made sure she never felt alone and always had a smile on her face. One day, John had an idea. He wanted to organize a big party for the children at the orphanage, a day filled with fun, games, and surprises. He shared his plan with Grace, and she was thrilled. They spent days preparing for the party, gathering decorations, planning games, and making sure everything would be perfect. When the big day finally arrived, the orphanage was transformed into a magical wonderland. Colorful balloons and streamers adorned the halls, and tables were filled with delicious treats. The children were overjoyed when they saw the decorations. Their eyes sparkled with excitement as they played games, danced to music, and enjoyed the delicious food. Lily, who once felt so alone, was now surrounded by friends and laughter. During the party, John took a moment to watch the children having fun. He felt a deep sense of happiness and fulfillment. Grace walked over to him and said, "Look at the joy you've brought into their lives, John. You truly have a heart of gold." John smiled and replied, "It's not just me, Grace. It's us. Together we've made a difference." As the sun began to set, the children gathered around John and Grace. They thanked them for the wonderful party and for all the love and care they had shown. John felt a lump in his throat as he looked at their grateful faces. John and Grace's journey of spreading love and kindness was filled with heartwarming moments. After the success of the orphanage party, they decided to take their mission even further. They wanted to create a foundation that would support children in need, providing them with education, health care, and a safe place to grow. They named the foundation Hope and Hearts, symbolizing their desire to bring hope to the lives of many and to touch hearts with their kindness. John used his resources and connections to gather support, while Grace worked tirelessly to organize events and programs for the children. One day they received a letter from a small village far away. The village had no school or medical facilities, and the children there had limited opportunities. John and Grace decided to visit the village and see how they could help. When they arrived, they were greeted by the villagers with open arms. The children looked at them with hopeful eyes, and John and Grace knew they had to make a difference. They spoke with the village elders and learned about their needs and challenges. With determination and hard work, John and Grace began to transform the village. They built a school where the children could learn and grow. They also set up a small clinic where Grace could provide medical care to the villagers. The foundation's volunteers joined them, and together they created a safe and nurturing environment for the children. As the village flourished, John and Grace felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They saw the smiles on the children's faces and knew that their efforts were making a real impact. The village became a symbol of hope and love, showing what could be achieved when people came together with kindness and compassion. John and Grace's journey of love and kindness continued to inspire many. As their foundation, Hope and Hearts, grew, more people joined their mission to make the world a better place. They received support from all around, and their efforts began to spread to other villages and communities. One day, they received a letter from a faraway country. The letter was from a teacher named Maria, who worked in a small school in a remote mountain village. The village had no electricity, and the children had to walk miles to get water. Maria asked for their help to bring light and clean water to the village. John and Grace knew they had to help. They organized a team of volunteers and traveled to the mountain village. When they arrived, they were greeted by Maria and the villagers with open arms. The children were full of hope, just like the children they had helped before. With the help of the villagers, John and Grace started building a small water system to provide clean water to the village. They also worked on setting up solar panels to bring electricity to the school and homes. The villagers watched in amazement as their village transformed before their eyes. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, the village was lit up with the warm glow of solar-powered lights for the first time. The children danced and played, their faces beaming with joy. Maria thanked John and Grace with tears in her eyes. "You have brought light and hope to our village," she said. John and Grace felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They knew that their mission was not just about helping others, but about spreading hope and love in every corner of the world. They realized that every small act of kindness could create ripples of change, touching lives in ways they could never imagine. As they prepared to leave the village, John looked at Grace and said, "Our journey has brought us so far, but there is still so much to do. Let's continue to spread love and hope wherever we go." Grace smiled and replied, "Together we can make a difference, one heart at a time." John and Grace's journey of love and kindness continued to inspire many. With each new project, they saw the power of compassion and how it could transform lives. Their foundation, Hope and Hearts, grew stronger, and they continued to make a positive impact on communities in need. One day they received an invitation to visit a remote island where the children had no access to education. The island was beautiful but isolated, and the people there faced many challenges. John and Grace knew they had to help. They gathered their team and traveled to the island. When they arrived, they were welcomed by the villagers with open arms. The children looked at them with wide eyes, full of curiosity and hope. John and Grace began by setting up a small school under a big tree. They brought books, pencils, and other supplies and started teaching the children. The children were eager to learn and quickly formed a bond with John and Grace. As they spent time on the island, John and Grace learned about the unique culture and traditions of the villagers. They listened to their stories and shared their own. The villagers taught them how to fish and farm, and in return, John and Grace taught the children how to read and write. One evening, as they sat by the fire, John turned to Grace and said, "This island has taught us so much. It's amazing how love and kindness can bridge even the widest gaps." Grace nodded and replied, "We've been blessed to be a part of these children's lives. They remind us of the importance of hope and the power of education." As their time on the island came to an end, the villagers gathered to bid them farewell. They expressed their gratitude and promised to continue the work that John and Grace had started. John and Grace left the island with hearts full of joy and memories that would last a lifetime. They knew that their journey was far from over. There were still many more adventures and challenges ahead, and they were ready to face them together. John and Grace's journey of spreading love and kindness reached far and wide. Their foundation, Hope and Hearts, he became known for making a real difference in people's lives. As they continued their work, they heard about a small village that was facing a difficult time due to a natural disaster. The village had been hit by a strong storm, causing many homes to be destroyed. The villagers were struggling to rebuild their lives, and the children had nowhere to go to school. John and Grace knew they had to help. They gathered their team and traveled to the village, bringing supplies and tools to help with the rebuilding efforts. When they arrived, they saw the devastation left by the storm. The villagers were trying their best to recover, but they needed support. John and Grace worked alongside the villagers, helping to rebuild homes and set up temporary shelters. Grace provided medical care to those who were injured, while John organized efforts to provide food and clean water. One day as they were working, they met an elderly man named Mr. Davis. He had lost his home in the storm and was feeling hopeless. John sat down with Mr. Davis and listened to his story. He learned that Mr. Davis had lived in the village all his life and had always been there to help others. John felt inspired by Mr. Davis's resilience and decided to do something special for him. He gathered the villagers, and together they rebuilt Mr. Davis's home. When the house was finished, Mr. Davis had tears of joy in his eyes. "Thank you, John and Grace. You have given me hope and reminded me of the power of community," he said. John and Grace felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They knew that their mission was not just about providing material help, but also about spreading love and hope. As they continued their work in the village, they saw the villagers come together, supporting each other and rebuilding their lives. But their story was far from over. There were still many more adventures and challenges ahead, and John and Grace were ready to face them together. John and Grace's journey of spreading love and kindness reached its peak in the small village they were helping rebuild after the devastating storm. Their foundation, Hope and Hearts, had made a significant impact on countless lives, providing hope and support to those in need. As they continued their work in the village, they saw the power of community and the strength that came from unity. The villagers, inspired by John and Grace's dedication, began to rebuild their homes and lives with renewed hope and determination. One day, as John and Grace were walking through the village, they saw Mr. Davis sitting on the porch of his newly rebuilt home. He waved them over and said, "You both have done so much for us. You have given us hope and reminded us of the importance of kindness." John smiled and replied, "It's not just us, Mr. Davis. It's the love and support of everyone in this village that has made this possible." Grace added, "Together we can achieve anything. The power of love and kindness knows no bounds." As they looked around the village, John and Grace felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They knew that their journey had made a real difference in the lives of many. The children played happily, the villagers worked together, and the community thrived. John and Grace continued their mission, spreading love and hope wherever they went. They knew that their journey was far from over, but they were ready to face any challenges that came their way. Together, they had made the world a better place, one heart at a time. And so their story came to a beautiful end, leaving behind a legacy of love, kindness, and hope for generations to come. Thank you for sharing this heartwarming journey with me. If you have any other stories or ideas you'd like to explore, feel free to let me know.